Testing, testing. There we go. Help if I actually had my equipment attached, huh? All right. Let's get this sucker up and running, shall we? Yeah, I am just got a lot of things going on right now. Running to the computer to get this thing started, and I should work a little harder at making sure I get here earlier. All right. Let's get back over to YouTube. We're going to. Sorry, guys, just bear with me 1 second. I gotta get this link up and running. Amateur hour over here. Let's get this out on social media. Oh boy, what a morning. Yeah, so this has been an interesting week for me. I am preparing for the holidays and just trying to get everything done and off of my plate. And so, for folks who are maybe new to this chat, Monday morning chat is a time I dedicate towards just allowing everybody who might be following or listening to either my Twitter or my Yahoo channel that you can just come on, talk about your recovery effort, or talk about anything else related to, porn addiction recovery. Maybe talk about how your progress is going, ask any questions if you have to. And that's why I'm here. I am just here to help with my audience. And this gives you the time to interact and feedback. Just as a point of notice, I mentioned it last week. I will be setting up in the future a shared Zoom session, and the whole point of that Zoom session is to allow anyone else who is either struggling with porn addiction or who's been working recovery for a while, just to be able to interact with others. I know that not everybody has the luxury of necessarily being in programs, so this gives you the opportunity of just interacting with others. Um, I promise I will have that link up. It's probably going to be, I'm going to push till after the Christmas holiday just because there's just so much going on right now. But that'll give me a better chance to know how my availability is going to be. And once that time is set, I'll post it both in the community. If you're on YouTube right now, I'll post it on the community link up above. And I'll also post it out on my Twitter channel as well, or Twitter handle as well. Anyway, so what's going on? This week has been fast and furious. I've been just trying to catch up with everything, but to be honest with you, it's like I feel like I'm running at 30 frames per second. There's a lot going on, and the individual stuff is just being hard to just keep up with right now. Um, I can tell you that I had a very active week in recovery personally. For me, this week I got a chance to catch up with two sponsees and spoke to my sponsor. And, I spent a lot of time in the recovery space just interacting and talking with people. And even getting a chance to talk with a new prospective sponsee. Man, the first thing I got to just tell you guys is that it's all walks of life. It is all walks of life of people that go through this stuff. And, you know, I, I've spoken to teenagers. I've spoken to guys who are in their 70s. Um, Diversification in career fields, diversification in ideologies, diversification in all manners and forms of the way they live and act and do their routines, even diversification in how they formed their addiction. So I guess the whole point of saying that is that you're not alone. You are not alone. There's somebody else out there who is probably like you. You're not an oddball. You are going through the same sorts of problems and situations that other people go through. What's really good is when you get exposed to the diversity of people that have problematic porn use, is that you get a chance to see how it manifests in lots of different ways. So I think that maybe a lot of people who are teenagers or in their 20s who grow up on these, you know, portable electronic devices, they think that maybe the problem is unique to their age set because, well, I grew up with the device. So, it impacted me at an early age. Well, impacts are impacts. It doesn't matter what age you get exposed to things. And I think the fallacy in the thinking is that, oh, somebody who is older should be more seasoned and less prone to forming addictions. But that's not the way that works. That's not the way that works. Um, Anyone can fall into that trap. And I've seen it time and time and time again. So if you're 60 or 70 years old and you're listening to this right now and you're like feeling embarrassed about the fact that you've fallen into this porn addiction or online porn addiction, um, th- that's nothing to be embarrassed about. You are human just like everyone else. All right, let's check out on the chat and see how we're doing. All right, no one's online right now. I'll keep this up here. So if you'd like to participate, if you're on YouTube right now, there is a chat feature that's enabled. I do not record the chat feature, so after this video is wrapped up today, I'll probably just keep it at a half hour today. If you don't come on, hey, good morning, how are you doing? If you don't come on and ask any questions, that's fine. You don't have to necessarily participate. You can just listen. If anybody chooses to, comment or chat, I'll read it out loud. And we don't record the username, so if you didn't come in anonymously, don't feel bad about it, or you don't have to worry about it. We're not going to replay the user IDs. Good morning. Sorry that you're feeling sick there. Yeah. One of the things I've been working on with one of my sponsees is the nature of honesty. And this is why I feel it's really important to not isolate while you're in recovery, is that sometimes there's honesty and sometimes there's the lack of telling the truth, right? Which are two separate things, right? One of the mechanisms, if you're dishonest, you could be intentionally being dishonest because your ego doesn't want to deal with the facts of, you either using porn or the morality or ethical mores that come along with that, or just simply preserving the nature of, I am a perfect person. Then there's the denial mechanisms that we all run in, and some folks just intentionally want to stay away from the truth because they don't want to experience the pain of what that means to have to go through that sort of suffering. And if you're isolated and you're trying to go through recovery, you don't get the opportunity of like doing the truth telling, which is like so important. Um, so you basically stay on the outskirts of truth. You don't get the chance and opportunity to actually confront the truth of what you're doing. Um, when you're interacting with a sponsor, the opportunity to actually start telling your truth, saying, yeah, you know what, I was online yesterday and I came across an image and it triggered me and I went to go looking at porn. You know, um, you don't get a chance and opportunity to actually do that. And I had posted this morning. It was talking about Vince Lombardi, a famous football coach here in the United States. The greatest accomplishment is not in never failing, but in rising again after you fail. Which there's so much wisdom to that, and I think you can modify that for the recovery purposes. That you have to be able to talk about your um, failures, if you'd really want to call them that, your slip ups. You have to be able to talk about your slip ups in order to get stronger. It absolutely has to happen. Because no person's perfect. There's going to be slip ups that happen in your life. But if you're working solo inside of a program, when do you get the opportunity to actually talk about the slip ups? And what would be more prone to happen is if you did slip up, you're probably just going to either casually brush it off or you'll be so crushed by it that you just give up. And I don't want to see either one of those things happen. So even if you can't get inside of a 12-step program or a recovery program or what have you, at least finding somebody who you're close and confident to, that just talk to them about it. Yeah, man, I've just been struggling and here's what happened. You get that off of your chest and it gives you the opportunity to confront it. The words are now out there. That person gets to hear what you've been saying and they get a chance to interact with you, but it's more about you. Like, you had the opportunity to face your truth. All right, some lively discussion in chat. All right, time check, it's 9:14. Guys, I'm going to run it out to 9:30 today, just because I got a lot going on. And again, I'll post the link for the Zoom session probably like December 26th. I'll put a date to it. I'll force myself to do it, but the day after Christmas we'll get something out there. All right, what else did we have? You guys have any questions for me out in chat or anything you want to talk about? Boy, I do know about, like, when you start feeling sick, that can really play havoc on you. Depends on how sick you are. Sometimes there's a type of sick where you're just feeling down and you're bedridden, and that can perhaps be the worst time because you're stuck in a place and you've got your devices on, and you just kind of wait it out, and there's the temptation that's there. I think actually when you're a porn addict, the best type of sick is like when you're completely annihilated. Because I know when I've had like really bad flu. Yeah, there was a question. Do you have a full-time job? Jay, was that to Jake or? I'll answer that question anyway. For me, I don't have. I'm an independent contractor. I just take jobs whenever I can. Yeah, yeah, okay, got it. Yeah, I personally I'm an independent contractor, and so my time schedule is kind of loopy because I'll have my person who's I'm contracting with, they come on and just say, hey, we're going to be meeting up at such and such a time, and it's usually never consistent. So I've got to just take me where the wind takes me. um, but within that, I don't work alone. I actually work with other people because I do a lot of development. So I have to talk to other people to know what to be working on, and everything's time based. So we got to work out a project plan and that sort of thing. So it's never ending. But I'm looking forward, like, with my personal story. There's probably going to be a time in my near future where I'm just going to give up the contracting gig and go back full time. But I had to wait till all the stuff with my own legal situation blew over, and thank God it's like coming all to a conclusion. Yeah, I thought back in October that that was going to be the last of it, but there's still like one more hurdle I have to go through, and then I can start really looking for full-time jobs again. Yeah, guys, you never want to be in my situation. Good Lord. Every once in a while, I get that reminder about how bad it could have been, and sometimes it's working through other sponsees, and sometimes it's just seeing some of these guys in the news, man. Mm. Yeah, I've talked enough about it. I won't exasperate it, but there's when you get behind that, there's no way of digging your way out. You just have to. uh, I'll let Jay Aaron finish his thought. I'll wait till he finishes. The the disaster it puts you in, and that was me hitting my wall. I had to just allow that, all the pain and suffering that happened, but it lasted forever, man. And I am never going to be 100% out of the woods, because people unfortunately have memories. No matter how much I clean up, you know, the legal mess that I left behind, um, there's always going to be some avenue of. Let me give you an example. I had an ex-girlfriend reach out to me through one of my social media platforms. She found out about what I had gone through, and this is a girl I knew back when my teenage years in high school. And here she is as a middle-aged woman reaching out to me and say, "Hey, I read about you and what had happened." And there was no nice article that was out there about that. And this is a person who knew me intimately and like knew what I was all about, and knew my character. And so, I picked up the phone and I called her up, and we had like a half-hour conversation, because she knew who my parents were, and like, we had a really long discussion about that whole thing. Um, and it was painful. It was painful to have to go tell this person, it's like, yeah, I've been struggling with porn addiction, and I was using an online platform to go looking for porn, and that's where the bad things started happening, because I was not doing proper filtration of my content, and I was just downloading like a crazy person. That's how I got in trouble. And it's funny that, on reflection, when you talk to a person like that, because when you talk to a person who knows the whole you, even if it was like years ago, they how much more sentiment and empathy you get from people who actually know your personality. Um, but I got a chance to tell her the whole story, and that was just so humiliating. It's a lot different to have to go in front of a group of strangers and tell your story than going to a person who knows you and then having to tell your story. Man, that one just hurt. Um, yeah, exactly. You know, Knowing that you weren't the only person dealing with this, and cautionary tales if you don't change. Although I have to say, as nightmarish as all the legal stuff was for me, the real change happened in my emotional state, because I was a freaking wreck, man. I was dealing with anxiety, dealing with depression, and all those things, right? All those things, for the most part, magically melted away when I got into recovery. And as more and more research keeps backing this up, that there is a connection between, problematic porn use and your psycho-emotional state, whether it's anxiety or depression, and it likely has to do with the neurochemical, the imbalance that's being created through the process of addiction. I did not go on any medications at all. Never went on any antidepressants. Never went on any anti-anxiety meds. I stopped work. I stopped my full-time job. I didn't have any choice in that. I got fired. Um, I started using tactics to better help me cope with stress and anxiety. But I've had maybe one or two depressive episodes for the last 5 years. And then I've had, anxiety wise, I haven't had no anxiety attacks this entire time. I did have one time where I got a little heated at somebody, but that's not an anxiety attack. That's just, I got a I've always been a hothead, and I have to better manage that. Unfortunately, with the hot-headedness, it's you don't get the opportunities to really work at that often, because if you're not in a situation where you're constantly being confronted, it's only those times where you're being confronted that you've got an opportunity to really work on, okay, how do I control this? And one time I just absolutely failed, but it's a work in progress. I was actively in addiction since I was, um, gosh, it's funny. Active addiction, it's going to be difficult defining like what we would call active addiction. But I've got to say it was in my teen years. I'm going to say that probably when I was like 15 or 16 years old. So if I say it was 16 years old, that means I'm getting close to 35 years. I want to round it up and just call it 40, but I want to say 35 years of active addiction. And so active addiction, how would I define active addiction? Because, there's a difference between this and, you know, going out and hoarding porn magazines, but I did that in my teenage years, so I want to call that active addiction because I definitely had a problem looking back at it. Um, so yeah, since I was about 14 or 15 years old, and I'm an old man now. I'm an old man. So through my active addiction, the mediums have changed. I went from magazines to online, and the early online stuff. As an old man, I can tell you about being at my computer lab at my university back when there was just 386 and 486 machines, and downloading an image that would probably take 10 to 15 minutes to download, and then copying it over to my 1.44-inch floppy drive, putting it in my pocket, and taking it back with me until I had stacks of AOL discs all over the place that were reformatted and had porn on them. And doing that from the early 90s all the way till when I could get my own CD press, and I was like pressing them out on CDs and giving them out to friends. Um, and then when online pornography really started getting insane, I think, yeah, it was a really progressive thing. Because yeah, I'll tell you something, guys. It's really interesting to even think about it. Even back in the 90s, there was a crap load of online porn. A crap. You just had to know how to get to it because it wasn't just thrown out on web pages. You had to go out to usually news groups or special portals, and you would be either exchanging it or just flat out assembling binaries and downloading it that way. But there was a lot of porn on the internet back then. Um, I think that a lot of people today like to say, yeah, it's only a recent problem with portable devices. The hell it was, dude. I was there. I lived through it. But I could fill up a disk drive very quick. Oh yeah, Kaza. I remember Kaza. Yeah, the Kaza days. I personally, I was a Emule. That's actually Emule is what sunk me. If you go back and listen to my videos, it was Emule that got me in trouble. I was using Emule because I had used Emule to download MP3s. That's how I got introduced to it all. Um, the file sharing platforms. I started. I had used Kazaa. What was the other popular one? Help me out. What was the other popular? LimeWire. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember LimeWire. I even downloaded that one time. Kazaa, LimeWire, and what was the other big one? There's one more. Anyway, I won't dwell on it, but there was like all those big platforms out there, and that was in the MP3 hoarding era. So I really got into music, and I had the first MP3, the first mass-produced MP3 player, and I was constantly downloading MP3s. But then I realized, oh, I could get movies, and so I was getting. First, it started off with like very basic movies, but I was just pirating like crazy. And I want everybody who, if there's other people that are listening, um, just take it in for a moment, right? Because like, whether it was games, video games, whether it was music, whether it was movies, like all three of those things have something in common, right? It's like you're doing something illicit, right? And it felt easy. It was easy. You download a program, you type in the thing you want to, and bam, you get the thing you want. Instantaneous demand. And so you get trained into doing what is an illicit activity that we don't want to think about because, in our minds, oh, is it just downloading music? Um, but it's the activity of doing that over and over and over again. You don't even think about it anymore. It's just like, oh, I want something and I get it, right? And that's kind of what that was all about. So when the online porn aggregators really started becoming popular, like Pornhub, Xvideos, what all the rest, I was going out to those sites and I was discovering it's like a learning process. You start to learn what porn stars you like, um, what studios you like, all those other things. And I'm like, oh, well, I can't find the thing I'm looking for. So I would go back out to, in my case, Emule, and I would, just like I did with the MP3s, I would type in the porn that I wanted and I would go searching for it. And that's how I got to this complicated process by which I was going out and just finding the things I wanted. And one of the things that I had wanted more than anything else was cam porn because back then, you know, um, there were lots of different cam porn platforms, and a lot of them, they were paid platforms, and I didn't want to pay for it. I was cheap. I was cheap, so I wanted things free, just like I got free music, just like I got free videos, just like I got free video games. Um, so I would just go out to those platforms, and I trained myself on how I could subvert the system and get the things I wanted for free without having to pay for them. And that's exactly how I got myself in trouble because those cam platforms, I could download unlimited amounts of, cam porn all the way down the list. And then the bad content is going to be included with that, and that's how you get screwed. Because if you're watching and you're downloading, then so can the local authorities. Napster! Jake, you're the man. You're absolutely right. Napster. That's the one I was trying to think of. I didn't like Napster as a platform, though. Everybody made a big deal about Napster, and I used it. And I was just like, is this what people make a big deal about? I was so disappointed in Napster. Oh man, you're taking me back memory lane now. The good old days. Yeah, I don't talk about it enough, but even when I was using those platforms, the amount of time that I wasted on trying to find the right content, and it's not just about porn. Sometimes it's just, trying to get, oh yeah, I found a copy of Lord of the Rings, but let me see if I can find the full version in high definition, right? Oh God, I must have wasted so much time doing all of that, and that really points to you know, I think the sickness inside of me. I'll call it sickness for what it is. It's I would allow myself to spend so much time on those platforms trying to get the content I wanted that it enabled almost a dependency. Um, and I'm not saying that I would die if I didn't have Napster or LimeWire or whatever. I could easily walk away from it, but when I was in there, I would sacrifice the time, right, to try to get the things I wanted. And I'm sure if I ever sat down and did a cost benefit analysis, it's like I spent X number of minutes looking for the high def version of Lord of the Rings, Two Towers. If I had just went out and paid the actual price for the movie, what would the cost difference? Would I have been better off just getting that time back in my life? Probably, probably. Yeah, you too, Jay. Shoot. It's already 9:30. I gotta call this one quits. All right, let's wrap it up. Hey, it's good talking to everybody, and thanks for memory lane. We'll do another Monday morning chat next Monday, And the Christmas holiday is going to be right behind that. So just looking at my calendar. So 2 weeks, guys. In 2 weeks, I promise you, I will get a link out there for a Zoom chat, and it'll be our first shared Zoom session. And um, I'll put an announcement for the time and the place, and I'll try to make it an afternoon this time. I'll try to make it afternoon hours so that it gives people who are maybe getting off work the opportunity to participate. And we'll try it out. We'll see how it goes. And if we get a positive experience from it, I will keep doing that. And I might experiment with different times and places, but we'll make it a constant thing. Anyway, thank you for listening. Take care of yourselves and please stay on that road to recovery. Take care, guys.